Fable. Fable, Fable, Fable. A game that is more than 20 years old by now. That's actually sooner than most games I've covered so far, if we measure by release date. But if instead we go by when someone first had an idea for a game, then it is closer to 40. It doesn't start with this guy, despite what you might expect, but with these two, the brothers, Dean and Simon Carter. Way back in an early year of the games industry, specifically 1985, they decided that one day they would create their own game studio. Not right away, but after they were done with their current jobs at Bullfrog Productions. Remember that company, it's important. And with their new studio, they would make their dream game. More than a decade passed before the day would come, but in 1998 they finally did it. Along with artist Ian Lovett, they created a studio that would be called Big Blue Box. And there was no delay getting started on the game. It was an interesting idea where you played as a wizard who would warp a large barren world into one teeming with life in a way that reflected the spells you used and the actions you took. They called it Wish World. The game, in this form at least, never made it anywhere near completion, but a rough prototype was kept alive by Fable developer Charlie Edwards, which feels like a name I just pulled out of my ass, but he's real, I promise. YouTuber People Make Games had a chance to play Wishworld and offered several insights into it if you're interested. You probably know about their video already, but if not, yay, I'm relevant. While that game concept does sound amazing, in the end reality said no, as none of the available publishers would support it. The Carters' frustration with this is detailed in their dev diaries. They speak of an expectation that you should create bold, new, exciting games, but also play it safe and guarantee profits. A razor-fine and frankly silly line, but all the same, one you would have to walk if you wanted your game to be made. Irritating as it may be, the brothers resolved to find their balance. To that end, they changed it, focusing in on the character themselves rather than the world, and eventually facilitating warrior and rogue playstyles in addition to the mage they had already been tinkering with. In other words, Wishworld became an RPG. Its new codename was Project Ego, but this is the game we today know as Fable. Despite the change, the creators were still struggling to maintain the side of the job that was financial management, pitching to publishers, and general maintenance, with the side that was building the game itself. That's where the next, but still not the last, piece of the puzzle comes in. If you know Fable, you know him. It's Peter Molyneux. He offered to handle most of the admin while the rest of the team focused on the fun part of the job. He also provided his basement as a place of work until they were able to get together the money for a proper office. Finding a publisher to give them that money would still take a long time, but one drizzly day, Microsoft popped their rich face in the door and said, "Fable! We want it! Give it to us!" And finally, the turbulent struggle of early development gave way to an environment of certainty. Fable was on the path to release, and to greatness. Said release was in 2004. Official reviews seemed quite happy with it, but famously, Fable came out with a hiccup in its public perception. It is renowned to this day as a game of broken promises. Peter Molyneux said many things in the years prior while marketing the game, and it doesn't look like he had been entirely honest about it. Okay, we need more context, so let's set the scene. Again, Peter's very first foray into building a game was, by his account, something called Entrepreneur, a business simulator that sold 2 copies, one of which he was pretty sure was his mum. Good thing to remember when you're making your own games. By the way, play this one. After Entrepreneur, he started a tech company called Taurus, spelt Taurus, and begun working on some database products. Huge electronics corporation Commodore then contacted him claiming to be interested in his work. He met them, but strangely, instead of talking about databases, they were going on about networking, a type of product that he didn't make. He realized they had his company confused with another one, also called Taurus, but spelled Taurus. But he decided now was the time to be a little bit sly, so he just acted like he didn't notice anything wrong. He took their equipment and gave them his product, just as agreed. The database product, of course. What else could they have been referring to? There was a bit of confusion, but apparently, even if it wasn't what they were expecting, it was good enough that they wanted it anyway. From here, he was able to set up the soon-to-be legendary gaming company, Bullfrog Productions. I told you that was important. There he became beloved in the industry thanks to his work on several simulation games, kicked off by Populous in 1989. As you may have guessed, it was here that he met the Carter brothers, specifically working with them on games Magic Carpet and Dungeon Keeper. Funnily enough, even earlier in his career, Peter had worked on porting the game Druid 2 Enlightenment to a new platform, and as it turns out, the original designer of that game was none other than Dean Carter. While its credits don't mention this, Peter has also said that Simon was involved as a major programmer. All of this before they had met. Small world. Eventually, though, he lost control of Bullfrog to an EA acquisition. He found that his new role at the company didn't allow him to do the work he really wished for, so Peter left. He wasn't done though, he just created another one. Lionhead Studios. And it was through this company that the Carter brothers would team up with him again to help get their game out. Big Blue Box would be made a satellite of Lionhead, and the resources of both studios would contribute to the creation of Fable. So to summarize to the best of my understanding, that's Microsoft publishing a game made by Lionhead in their satellite studio, Big Blue Box. Lionhead had other games they were working on as well, but when Microsoft entered the picture, Fable became the chief project. Both Lionhead and Big Blue Box employees, as well as some others, were working together crunching out this monster of a game. They required abusively harsh hours of the developers in this time, and resentment built up among them, for obvious reasons. It's a frustrating and all too common story for the games industry. As much as I love how Fable turned out, the world would be a better place if it was a smaller game, or was just released a year or so later, and in return the developers were not so harshly treated while it was made. It's more frustrating still just how often we consider this normal in the industry, even now, decades later. Progress has been made at least, but it's still not enough by any fair metric. YouTuber Game Studio Lore has gone into far more detail, linked below. However, that's not the controversy we all know about, is it?
You walk around, you see somebody swearing at his children or something like that, and
you learn that.
No, you don't.
There are other heroes competing against...
Nope. Quests aren't competitive.
The people in the world will start dressing like you and cutting their hair like you.
No. They don't.
Married and you can have children.
Yeah, no you can't. While I didn't find the original source for this, his most famous claim is that players could plant an acorn and given enough time it would grow into a new tree. You could then carve something into that tree and it would stay there ever after. This isn't in the game either, in case that needs to be said. In this documentary by Kikazo, released just before Fable came out, he discussed how what he said about the acorn was true at the time he said it, but it was cut due to its disproportionate computational cost, which could be put to other, more vital systems. In fact, I don't think there was any misinformation in this documentary at all, at least not about what was demonstrably in the game. While in the earlier presentations and interviews, Peter told us things that just weren't true, here he doesn't. He would be talking about a version of the game that was pretty much the same as what was released at this point, so I think this alone implies that he was telling the truth about why he said what he did. Peter apologized for the situation after Fable was released, where once again he attributed it to getting too excited about stuff that was there but wasn't necessarily gonna make it all the way. I also want to say I like him. I get good vibes, he just exudes passion and enthusiasm for almost everything he works on. But the fact remains he deceived the public, and the question remains, does it matter if he didn't mean to? It's not just about honesty, it's about trust, good intentions or no, especially when talking about something that we spend our own money on. Regardless of the reasons, Peter has given us good cause not to trust him. So frankly, I think the fairest answer to the question is no. It doesn't really matter if he was telling the truth at the time. And unfortunately, he continued to make this same blunder for his future games. He did not learn his lesson. As much as his energy is great, I think he should have been removed from public-facing roles. That might have saved us a lot of confusion and anger. Regardless, I was a bit too young to follow any of this at the time. It was 2006 or 7, maybe even 8 when I first played Fable. All the drama was history by then. I think the sad state of marketing versus reality needs to be remembered, but I don't want it to dominate the discussion either. So, let's move on to the topic we've all been waiting for. Greek legends! Obviously, what did you think I'd say? Fable is about heroes. That's going to come up a lot in the next video. It occurred to me that in this story, a hero is not just an idea for the audience, but a diegetic thing in the world that it takes place. You know, something the game's NPCs themselves know about. They literally have a guild for it. What they would expect of a hero is a person of incredible power, both physically and metaphysically, who fights the great monsters of the lands and protects people, or sometimes kills them. And to my amateur understanding, that sounded quite a lot like the OG heroes of ancient times. People of divine lineage and exceptional power who fought monsters and solved unsolvable problems. Specifically, I thought of Hercules. Wait, no, Heracles. Hercules? Herrick? Specifically, I thought of Heracles. I figured I could read Heracles' story as it was originally written thousands of years ago and compare some of the ideas and tropes in it to Fable. I thought it would be interesting to find out what influences have survived long enough to be in both stories. But I overlooked one small thing. The original poem I was after is gone. There is no known copy still in existence. Pretty much all the sources we rely on to retell the legend now were themselves retellings from centuries later, so I made do with one of them. Something called The Library by Apollodorus. Quickly explaining the name, Apollodorus was an Athenian academic from the 100s BCE, and for a long time we attributed the library to him. Later, we realized it must have been written around 100 years after his time, making it someone else's work. But we still don't know who, so we call this person Pseudo-Apollodorus. Now, the library doesn't just cover Heracles, it spans many myths and legends, from the creation of gods to some guy who incorrectly guessed the size of a pig's litter. Okay, here's something that I've just got to include. You may know that the War of Troy lasted 10 years. You may also know that Odysseus took 10 years after that to get home. But did you know that it also took the Greeks 10 whole years after Helen's abduction just to arrive at Troy? This is because they didn't actually know where the Trojan city was and didn't think to check before leaving. They weren't discouraged though, they just picked a direction and went for it. They ended up sacking the wrong city, then getting lost again and landed back in Greece having gone in a circle. Then the guy in charge of the not Troy city they sacked showed up and said, "Look, I'm still injured from that fiasco. If you guys heal me, I'll tell you how to get to the city you actually want to attack." And I imagine the Greek leaders were like, yes, just as we planned. I love humans sometimes. Mind you, stuff like that would never happen today. Anyway, I read another book too, for the sake of seeing the stories through a modern lens. Heroes by Stephen Fry. Both books mostly agree on events, and the library covers more ground while Heroes goes into more detail, so they balance each other quite well. While I had some prior knowledge before this project too, I'll mostly be treating these two sources as my grounding for the Greek stuff in the analysis. To be clear, I'm not in any way an expert on the classical stories. Take everything I say with at least 5 pinches of salt. However, for the purposes of a fun comparison to Fable, I think I can say, fuck you, I'll do what I want. Let's do a quick summary of the stories then. Keep in mind that many of them involve sexual assault, so skip the rest of the video if you don't want to deal with that. Perseus, son of Zeus, killed a cursed woman called Medusa and used her gaze to get everyone stoned, rescued someone called Andromeda, and they hit it off, so they got married. She was Ethiopian, and according to this painting, white. Randomly killed his granddad in a sporting accident. Achilles, bisexual icon, best warrior in the Trojan War, got pissed off when Agamemnon took his waifu and refused to fight, got even more pissed off when Hector killed his husbando and killed him back, learned an important lesson about the never-ending cycle of violence before finding out that Hector's brother had misplaced an arrow in his heel. Bellerophon, likely a son of Poseidon, tamed Pegasus and rode him around for shits and giggles, got falsely accused of rape because men probably wrote the story, also killed a chimera, fell off Pegasus when trying to fly to Olympus because hubris or something. Jason, wanted to reclaim his father's kingdom, ended up sailing to recover the fleece of a golden sheep to do it, joined by Heracles, also joined by Theseus, even though that doesn't make sense on the timeline, dealt with clashing rocks, wandering rocks, and dragons that I assume slept on rocks to get the fleece. Then a piece of his ship fell on him after his wife killed their children. Atlanta. As a baby, she was left to die in the wild. She didn't. Joined a hunt and caused chaos. It was great. Lost a race because she was cleaning up after a man who she was then forced to marry. Turned into a lion later. Orpheus. Not a fighter, but a great musician. Joined Jason to get the golden fleece. Loved his wife. She died. He went to the underworld to get her back, but fucked up by turning around, so they were separated forever. Theseus. Slid the road of a bunch of creative bandits. Entered the forced tribute of human sacrifices by Athens to Minos by killing the Minotaur. Ruled Athens well. Got a head too big for his shoulders and tried to take Persephone from Hades as his wife. Got trapped as a result, but freed by Heracles, then fell off the Acropolis and died. Alcmaeon led the Argives to victory against Thebes in battle, hated his mum and killed her, was driven mad by the Furies for his trouble, sought repentance for a while, then got killed trying to nick some jewelry. Oedipus. As a baby, he was left to die in the wild. He didn't. Was adopted. The oracle told him he would kill his dad and marry his mum. After solving a riddle, he killed his dad and married his mum. He wasn't too happy about it once he found out. Odysseus. Very clever, except when he's not. Made everyone swear to protect Helen and her marriage, accidentally sending them all to Troy. Won Achilles' armor versus Ajax, built a horse, blinded a cyclops, got most of his men eaten by cannibals, fucked a sorceress, popped to the underworld, sired Scylla, Charybdis, Calypso, finally got home and killed all the pricks abusing his wife. Dionysus. Son of Zeus. Mother died before he was born, so he was incubated in his father's thigh. Wandered around the world hosting parties and convincing everyone to kill their own children. A bunch of pirates then tried to sell him into slavery, so he turned their horse into snakes and them into dolphins. Then he ascended to godhood for some reason. Caeneus. Trans guy was sexually assaulted by Poseidon, who then granted his wish to become invincible so it could never happen again. He ended up in a punk shop with a bunch of centaurs who couldn't kill him, so they buried him instead, and he was like, well, this sucks for the rest of time. Heracles. Son of Zeus. Great-great-grandson of Zeus. Greatest of all heroes according to some. Killed a lion lion to get his name, then went mad and killed his family, so killed another lion followed by 11 more tasks to atone, then went on a killing spree of everyone who had wronged him, then helped defend Olympus from the giants, then wore a poison shirt and died. Also, strong! See you in the main video.